All right, we're stepping onto a different kind of stage for this one. We're about to dive into a theatrical parable, a verdict on reality itself, and it's all delivered by a very curious figure who calls himself the Uncanny Jester. So, right out of the gate, the Jester throws this challenge at us. This single quote really ignites the whole conflict, the battle between a static, preserved truth and one that's active, fiery, and very much alive. This is going to be the central argument of our whole story.
And here's our playbill for this psychological drama. Think of it in 5 acts. We're going to watch as these cosmic forces clash, break each other down, and in the end, maybe synthesize into something totally new.
Okay, let's dive into Act 1. This is the world as we often find it, right? It's a rigid structure. It feels safe. And it's built by a fearful god, trying to keep the raw, messy radiance of reality from getting in. So let's meet our first player, Wotan the Architect. Now, it's really important to see him not as a person, but as a principle. He's the force that binds everything together with what the Jester calls the structural glue of immutable debt. These ancient laws give us stability, sure, but they come at the cost of all vitality. And it's all born from this deep terror of what real, raw reality looks like.
And this gives you such a clear picture of the architect's creation. It's a world defined by a tyranny of straight lines and locked doors. It's really just a dead facade, designed to keep the chaos, the void, at a safe distance. The Jester calls it a museum you mistake for a living world, a place where everything is preserved perfectly, but nothing is actually alive. All right, on to our second act. A powerful new force is about to enter the stage, and he is ready to challenge and, frankly, burn down everything the architect has so carefully built.
And that brings us to our second player, Mephistopheles the Negator. This is the spirit that always denies. He's the friction from the pit that questions every single rule. Now, he's not pure evil. Think of him more as a necessary force of deconstruction, offering what the Jester calls ignoble knowledge, specifically to shatter our vanity.
So how does the Negator work? Well, it's all about discomfort. He's the stinging grit in the oyster that forces change. He's the fire of the abyss that melts the architect's rigid glue. His whole purpose, with that voice like shifting stone, is to make the familiar, the homegrown, feel unhomely, forcing us to re-examine everything we just take for granted.
So you've got these two massive opposing forces, the absolute builder and the absolute destroyer. Who's standing in the middle of all this? That's where our narrator, the Jester, steps in, taking on the role of the witness. And the thing is, the Jester doesn't pick a side. He stands as the honest bridge, a conduit between the architect's high star and the negator's caustic pit. His only allegiance is to what he calls the sacred debt of honesty, just bearing witness to both extremes without casting any judgment.
And this slide, this really gets to the heart of the tension the witness has to hold. For Wotan, the architect, truth is an anchor, a static weight that provides stability. But for Mephistopheles, the negator, truth is an irritant. It's friction that forces you to examine everything. The Jester's job isn't to solve this argument, but simply to endure it.
And that brings us to the climax. The immense pressure of holding these two opposite realities at once, it doesn't lead to a collapse. It leads to a violent and absolutely necessary breakthrough. And what sparks it all? It's this one piercing question from the Jester, a question that's aimed at stripping away all the performance, all the pretense. This is the catalyst for what he calls the dangerous wager with the self.
So this wager, it's an internal journey where all those comfortable masks we wear, the masks of integrity, of certainty, of our own identity, they finally start to crack under the strain. But listen, this cracking isn't a failure. It's the beginning of a truly profound transformation. And right here, this is the whole point of those cracks. They aren't tragedies, they are not wounds. In the Jester's view, a cracked mask is the only opening where the emerald light of reality can finally shine through. It's a deeper, more honest, and kind of terrifyingly beautiful existence.
Okay, let's head into our final act and see how this agonizing journey resolves. This is the synthesis, the incredible result of integrating the builder and the destroyer. This whole process is what he calls an uncanny synthesis. You take that negative, irritating element, the stinging grit from the negator, and you don't reject it. You don't throw it away. Instead, it's transformed, refined into something precious, a pearl of revelation. That friction from the pit doesn't cancel out the light of the stars. It actually makes that light meaningful.
The result of all this is a radical shift in perspective. The chaos that was once so terrifying, the grotesque, the 10,000 hells of doubt, they now feel like home. And why? Because they're no longer threats. They're essential parts of a reality that's grounded in absolute honesty.
And so the central transformation is complete. We've moved from the architect's world, that static, safe, but ultimately dead museum, to a new reality, a reality that is dynamic, constantly changing, and alive with the fire of recreation. You go from a hollow joke to a living revelation.
So the parable ends, but the jester leaves us with this final, provocative question. He's no longer just telling a story. He is turning the focus directly back on you. Now that the masks have cracked and that emerald light has poured in, the choice is yours. Our journey through this explainer is over, but the real work, that's just begun. What will you do with the lit room?